Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
You did your homework. I haven't heard those words and that introduction in literally years, so thank you for doing your homework. And for those of you who are sitting there asking yourself, is he black? Yes, I am black. In case you were not entirely sure, that's actually the beauty of our culture and race. We come in all shapes and sizes and skin tones and hair textures, right? Lots of options out there, brothers and sisters. No need to stray. I'm from Brooklyn. I get a little gangster every now and then. You'll have to forgive me. I always proclaim my family, my culture, my people, wherever I speak around the world. I speak about 150 times around the world. I've given over 2,000 speeches in the last probably 24 months. I've been in 137 different cities around the country and around the globe. And I proclaim, because if you don't know who I am and where I'm coming from, and to hear me say what I'm about to say would make you angry. I've invested 30 years of my life teaching, evangelizing, preaching about the power and importance of the relationships in our lives. This vision for me and this mission assigned to me by God came to its full clarity when 40 years ago I read a passage in the Bible. It is a direct quote from Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ does not have many direct quotes in the Bible, you know that. John 5:30. I want you to read this passage tonight when you go home. John 5:30. And Jesus said, I of my own self can do nothing. Now this was Jesus. Jesus couldn't get it done on his own by himself in a vacuum. So what's up with you? Why would you think that you could do anything significant, anything worth talking about on your own by yourself in a vacuum? It is not possible. This passage said to me some 40 years ago that we were born to network, that we were born to collaborate, that we were born to work with and through each other, that we were born to link together in a common bond of caring and sharing, that all good things are done through collaboration, through teamwork, through networking. I come from the city of Cleveland. This is where I live, born in Brooklyn, but I live in Cleveland. And we clearly understand in Cleveland, as you have watched over the last week, we understand the power of teamwork and collaboration. I tell brothers and sisters all the time, I'm not interested in being on any old damn team, because not all teams win. I'm interested in being on a winning team. Are you on a winning team? And I can answer that question for you if you introduce me to your 5 closest friends. Introduce me to them, and that will tell me where you are. As they know, and as they go, you go. I've often said, as I speak around the country, sometimes, and this is specifically addressed to black people, sometimes I think that we are searching for a key to an unlocked door. Let me repeat that for you. Sometimes I believe that black people are searching for a key to an unlocked door, that the door to opportunity is wide open and will cost you little to get in. The door to building the kinds of collaborations and teams that we need to succeed and to thrive, not to survive, are available to us. The resources necessary to succeed in this country as Africans in America are here. That God has given us every single thing that we need to succeed, brothers and sisters. We have everything we need to succeed except each other. Jews have each other. Asians have each other. East Indians have each other. Arabs have each other. We don't have each other. We have money. Oh, we're not poor. We're just broke. Our money goes in one direction away from us. And we're some of America's most conspicuous consumers. We've taken the art of consumption to a whole new level. And I agree with my brothers in NSN. We don't sell anything that we purchase, and we don't make anything that we buy. We just consume. So we have money. We are a $1.1 trillion annual economy. If we were a nation, we would be the 16th richest nation in the entire world. I have traveled to every place that black people have been dispersed, brothers and sisters. I've been to South Africa, East Africa, Central Africa, West Africa, all over North Africa, and all over South America and the Caribbean. And there are no black people in the entire world doing better than we are. In fact, if the truth be known, we are the beacon of hope for every single person of African descent in the entire world. And because we are morally grounded and spiritually rooted people, we know that to whom much is given, much is required. We are an awesome and powerful people, and God has given us everything we need to succeed. We have money, we have brain power, we're brilliant people, brilliant, magnificent. We're God's first people. God ain't no dummy. Now that's not hype. We are God's first people. The first human remains, humans as we know them, were found 75,000 years ago in the Olduvai Gorge in Ethiopia. If you're hanging out in Ethiopia, you're blue-black. And for 35,000 years, Africans ruled the world. We built pyramids and solved complex engineering problems when other cultures are living in huts eating each other. We are an awesome and powerful people who basically have forgotten who we really are. We ruled the world. We're God's first people. We are morally and spiritually superior to others in this country. I said morally and spiritually superior. And I've come to the conclusion at 70 years old, yes, I'm 70 years old. I know I look 35 or 40. But you know, black don't crack. And I've come to the conclusion, as a 70-year-old black man living in America, that we cannot fix white racists. We can't fix them. There have been white racists for 400 years. There will be white racists for another 200 or 300 years. We cannot fix white racists because the concept, the social construct of racism is insane. Whoever told you that you are superior and better than anybody, that is pure and unadulterated insanity. So as Nobel laureate Toni Morrison said to Charlie Rose on PBS, when he asked her, Miss Morrison, how do you feel about racism? She said, Charlie, it feels insane and it is insane. And my father told me 50 years ago that white racists were insane and don't pay any attention to what they're doing. And so he then asked her, have you ever been victimized by racism? She said, oh, no, I knew you were insane 50 years ago. So I just decided I would not pay any attention to you and go ahead and win the Nobel Prize and the Pulitzer Prize. So then Charlie Rose asked Toni Morrison, what do you suggest that white people do? White racists, that is. She said, I suggest that you get therapy and leave black people alone and stop driving us insane. because you're using your insanity to drive us insane. And she's exactly right. So I refuse to be driven insane by racism. Don't you be driven insane by racism. Let me say that another way. Have you ever had a conversation with an insane person? What does that conversation sound like? Insanity. Yes, we must fight for social justice. No question about that. But we use disproportionately too much of our time fighting this thing called ism. And we must spend more of our time on our personal excellence, on education, personal growth and development, constant never-ending improvement, and lifelong learning. That's what we must do. And leave those insane people alone. So when some white racist says something stupid, and they're going to say something stupid, they've been saying stupid crap for 400 years, laugh at them and know that they are insane. And don't waste a minute of your time even responding to them. The best way you can respond to a white racist is to outcompete them, to take their money and their businesses. That's the best way to respond to racism. The way you do that is through collaboration, through teamwork. 22 years ago, I wrote a book called Success Runs in Our Race, The Complete Guide to Effective Networking in the Black Community. It is a modern-day classic. And I say this with humility. It is a modern-day classic. It is required reading in 57 historically black colleges. It is the book that started the networking conversation in Black America and ultimately started the networking movement in our culture. And if you read that book, and you should if you haven't, I defined networking for black people. There were already 14 books on networking for white people 22 years ago, but there was nothing written on the subject inclusive of our cultural picadillos. We are different than them. Thank God, we are. In fact, I believe that we are so different than them that maybe we were not brought here. Maybe we were sent here. Do you believe? Really? I mean, think about this deeply now. Do you believe that God would put his weakest people here to do his toughest job? I don't think so. How could an America who could morally, spiritually, and biblically justify the kidnapping, raping, and pillaging of another two people, natives already in America and Africans brought to America, have any moral or spiritual grounding? And perhaps had God not sent you here, America might have self-destructed by now. We are an awesome and powerful people. But we have been divided and conquered by design. In Success Runs in Our Race, the Willie Lynch letter was published publicly for the first time. I don't know if you know that or not. And during the Million Man March, when Minister Farrakhan read the Willie Lynch letter at the Million Man March, he had a copy of Success Runs in Our Race and was reading it from the book. Collaboration and teamwork, networking. I defined networking 23 years ago with a simple definition. Networking is the identification and the building of relationships for the purpose of sharing information, opportunities, and resources. And the emphasis on that definition, brothers and sisters, is on building relationships and sharing. Why? Because all of life is about relationships. All of life is about working with and through other people. There is no success that you can attain, sustain, or maintain on your own by yourself in a vacuum. It is just not possible, especially if you are in business. Most of us here are in some sort of business, whether we are employed by someone else, or we are an employer, or we're working for ourselves. We're in some form of business. So in case no one has ever told you this, let me tell you this. Business is about relationships. Without relationships, you have no business. Without relationships, you have no business being in business. In fact, the business you're really in is in the business of building relationships. That's the business that you are in. I believe that the most powerful asset that you will have in the 21st century will not be your computer. I'm sorry, I don't care what you've read. It will be your relationships. Why? Because relationship building ultimately drives all entrepreneurship. It drives all job searches. It drives all upward mobility in the public-private sector workplace. Relationship building, networking drives organization building, community building, and nation building. All of those things are inherently networking initiatives. That it is your ability to shape the scope of your search for human resources and bring them to bear on your challenges and opportunities in life is what will ultimately determine your level of excellence or success in life. It's all about relationships. And you thought it was about education. Now, don't get it twisted. Education is profoundly important, but it's not enough. I have a high school diploma in woodworking because nobody thought I was college material. I do not have an earned degree. Now, I have honorary doctorate degrees that were bestowed upon me for my body of work. But I mopped floors for 3 years on the midnight shift at LaGuardia Airport. But I had a very high EQ, emotional intelligence. I had an average IQ, but a very high emotional intelligence. So my ability to cultivate, nurture, and to build relationships and to get people to like me and I love people was extraordinarily high. And it was my high EQ, my interpersonal and people skills that ultimately landed me in the Minority Business Hall of Fame and Museum with John H. Johnson, Bob Johnson, Earl Graves, A.G. Gaston. But I have a high school diploma in woodworking. My list of accomplishments are laced with thousands of people who I have collaborated with, built teams with, coalesced with, to achieve things that the ordinary person simply could not achieve. I've lived long enough to learn that life is really like a three-legged stool, and you need all three of the legs for the stool to stand. The first leg on the stool of life is education, that you must get as much education as you can afford or stand. But don't get overeducated. There are brothers and sisters out here who are overeducated. I have a good friend in Cleveland, Ohio, good brother, working on his second PhD, married, 43 years old, has 2 children, working on his second PhD. At Cleveland State, he's a research assistant, making $11 an hour. So I had to have a meeting with him because he's a good friend. And we went to Starbucks. I had to pay because, he ain't got no money. He got 2 PhDs, he's got 6 degrees, but no, making $11 an hour. So I said to my friend, I'm not going to tell you his name because he might be your cousin. I said, listen, man, you're 42 years old, married, 2 children, making $11 an hour as a research assistant, working on your second PhD. you need your ass kicked. That's what I told them. You need another degree like you need a hole in the head. What you need to do is to turn your education into a marketable skill where you're making more than $11 an hour. You need to get out of college and get you a damn job. You haven't done anything with the 5 degrees you already have, making $11 an hour, and you're working on another one. You are an educated derelict. That's what you are. You hiding behind your degrees. Get out there, get experience, and build relationships. It's an interesting article in Time magazine not too long ago. It was an interview with Sumner Redstone. How many of you know who Sumner Redstone is? Sumner Redstone is the chairman of the board of Viacom. Viacom bought BET for $3.2 billion. Anybody that can buy anything for $3.2 billion and have any money left over is stupid rich, right? They got stupid money. Sumner Redstone, this is the interview in Time magazine. That's Sumner Redstone. He was in China. And the interviewer asked Sumner this question. He said, Mr. Redstone, you're in China negotiating a new business deal, but it's still a very regulated and protected industry. Has the market opened up for you, Mr. Redstone? And here's what old Sumner said. Sumner said, you know, I've been coming here for many years, and I'm quoting. Those years were spent for the most part in building relationships of friendship and trust with various officials of the Chinese government. And as a result of that, from a commercial standpoint, the doors have opened, and they've opened wide. Sumner Redstone now controls cable in China. Through what? Building relationships of friendship and trust. He didn't say one thing about money. Build the relationship. I'm here tonight because of relationships with Clifton and with the NSA and with the black accountants, and with all of my friends that I know and love, and Jada Davis, who handles our volunteers, who's sitting here, and Margaret Kraft, who's in the audience, because of relationships of friendship and trust. That's why I'm here. You're in here for free because of your relationship with them and their ability to communicate with you and to connect with you and to attract you to this place. Let me finish something I started. I said there are 3 legs on the stool of life. And I said the first one is education. The second one is marketable skills, your ability to take your education and training out into the marketplace, add value, and then get an exchange for that value. If you're only making $11 an hour, you're only worth $11 an hour in the marketplace. So if you want to earn more, you have to learn more. A college degree is not enough. Let me tell you about black people and college degrees. There are about 17% of us with a 4-year college degree or better. W.E.B. Du Bois' vision for us 90 years ago was if at least 10% of us could get a college education, we would then get that education, come back to our own community, invest in our own people, and just 10% of all black people would uplift the entire black community by itself, where nearly 17% of black people have at least a 4-year college degree or better. So we have a lot of PhDs in our community. We now need some PhDs, okay? So we have black folk with education. If you look at just the baby boomer generation alone, just my generation, we have amassed over 500 billion hours of formal education and professional training from just one generation alone, my generation. If you wanted to put a dollar value on that, it's just $10 an hour, and try to get an education or professional training for $10 an hour. That would mean that our collective intellectual capital base would be worth in excess of $5 trillion alone, one generation. So we have brain power and we have money. And here's an interesting statistic that speaks to our deficit in teamwork and collaboration. You don't hear this statistic very often, but nearly 60% of black people working, 60% of the black workforce in America, 9 million of us, are in executive, managerial, supervisory, professional specialty, vocational, technical, administrative, sales, and business ownership positions. That is an army of potential role models and mentors to help those who are stuck in the cycle of poverty. In fact, there is no army in the entire world larger than the army of black people that have succeeded in this country. So make no mistake about it, success runs in our race. We have every single thing we need to succeed. Do we not? God ain't stupid. He did not put us here for the reasons I quoted earlier and abandon us. Oh, no. So God told me to tell you on my trip to Dallas while in the air that he ain't giving you nothing else. What would you do with it? He told me to tell you that he will not be giving you anything else until you demonstrate to God that you can be better stewards of that which you already have. And then when we demonstrate to God that we can be better stewards of that which we already have, we will demonstrate to ourselves and we will demonstrate to the world that we are a force to be reckoned with. In fact, the only way America will ever maximize its full human potential is when we maximize our full human potential. So America is at a deficit at this moment in time. Relationships. What is a relationship? A relationship is someone that comes into your life and they do one of four things. They either add, subtract, divide, or multiply. What is a relationship? Someone that comes into your life, they do one of four things. They either add, subtract, divide, or multiply. Why would you want to be hanging out with people who are subtracting from your life, you're subtracting from their life, and through this subtraction comes division? Why would you want to hang out with a crew like that? Why would you not want to hang out with people where you're adding to their life, they're adding to your life, and through this addition comes multiplication? What am I really saying to you? I'm saying to you, brothers and sisters, please hear me on this. Don't spend major time with minor people. People doing nothing want you to do nothing with them. People going nowhere want you to go nowhere with them. If you want to change your life, change your relationships. If you're earning $50,000 a year, take inventory of your 5 closest friends. That's about what they're earning. And you're not going to earn a penny more until you start hanging out with people that are earning $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year. Because you see, there's a system for everything in the world. I tell young brothers and sisters this all the time. I say, when I speak in high schools, if you're getting C's and D's, all you know how to get is C's and D's because there's a system for getting a C. It's a different system than getting an A. So if you want to get A's, you got to hang out with people who are getting A's and then copy their system. So if you're making $40,000 or $50,000 a year, but really desire to earn $100,000 a year, well, then you have to hang out with people who are earning $100,000 a year and copy their system. But if you took inventory of your 5 closest friends, you could find out what they're earning about what you're earning. They have about as much education as you have. So you have to fix that. Friends are critically important because it's God's way of apologizing for your relatives. You can pick your friends, but you cannot pick your relatives. Now I'm already running behind. I have not even gotten to the 7 biggest mistakes we make in networking because I wanted to lay the foundation and give you a 30,000-foot view of what networking is and what it isn't and why it's so profoundly important in the context of our people and culture. And so what I'll do is I will truncate this part of the presentation. Oh, there's a lot more to it. It's rich with stories and humor, but we don't have the time. Come to the Power Networking Conference and we will have 96 hours together. Now we only have 45 minutes to an hour. Okay? So, let's talk about the 7 biggest mistakes. Let me just take an inventory of time. See where I am. I've got 6:45. Is that what you have?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm going to conclude this part in about 15 minutes, which means I'm going to really run through it. There's 7 big mistakes, and usually I take about 10 to 15 minutes on each one. I'm going to start with number 7. I'm not going to tell you number 1. Unless I have time to get there. Now, number 7, they're all big. They're all huge. And they come from 30 years of experience, 5 books on the subject of networking, being a student and studying our people in every aspect and element of building relationships. So they come out of a lifetime of experience, both analytical and anecdotal. What's the 7th biggest mistake that black people make when networking? I didn't say all people. I mean black people. I've been at this for 30 years, and in 30 years, I've given out about 1,000 business cards a year. So in 30 years, I've given out 30,000 business cards. And people used to come up to me all the time, Dr. Fraser, aren't you afraid of giving all these people your personal information, including your cell phone? Aren't you afraid they're going to bombard you? No, not at all. I've been black for 70 years. And here's what I've learned in dealing with our people around networking. That 99.999% of everybody I've ever given a business card to will never, ever, ever follow up. I will never hear from you. And you got a business card from America's networking guru, one of the most resourceful black persons on the planet. And you will not follow up with him, let alone some lesser known entity. We will not follow up. I cannot even begin to tell you, brothers and sisters, how huge that mistake is. I can tell you, if I had the time and I don't, all the good that has come to me in 30 years from simply following up on a business card number. Simply saying, I'm calling or I'm writing to say, I enjoyed meeting you, I learned a lot. If there's any way that I can serve you, if there's any way that I can help, please call me. I'm there for you. No, I didn't follow up saying, can you make a contribution to my charity? Will you buy? No, that's not how I follow up, and that's not how you should follow up. You follow up in service. And I cannot even begin to tell you the people that I have met in life, powerful people, who have followed up because they know and understand the principle of following up. They followed back up. And as a result of that, I have lifelong relationships that have been extraordinarily useful and productive for both. Follow up immediately, if not sooner. When people call you, follow up, return their phone call. Now, anybody that's ever called me, who do you get? You get me. You don't get any one of my 3 assistants. Not only do you get me immediately. Unless I'm in the air somewhere, most of the time you'll get a call back from me, I don't care who you are, within an hour, sometimes within 5 minutes. Follow up. One of the reasons I'm successful, and I say this with humility, is because I am accessible. I am authentic. And you need to be accessible. It's a very powerful thing. And it's a huge mistake. It's the most common low-level mistake that results in the tremendous abuse and misuse of potential relationships. Following up. And then there are ways and strategies on how to follow up. In my book, Success Runs in Our Race, I lay out a whole list of lines that you can use when following up, ways that you can serve and add value and not seem as though you're following up to get something. You see, because that's another big mistake that we make. We'll talk about that later. So that's number 7. Number 6. Most, not all, of our people make a very poor first impression. And it begins with your personal introduction. When you actually meet someone and what you say to them. No one is interested in your life story right now. The purpose of a well-thought-out introduction is to pique the other person's interest so that they will want to know more about you later, not now. You're in a social environment, you're at a conference, you're at a webinar, you're at a dinner. So you want to craft a introduction that's no more than 15 or 16 seconds long. They call it an elevator pitch. Something that will take the time. If you met someone on the first floor, by the time they got to the 6th or 7th floor, you will have already introduced yourself. A good personal introduction has 5 elements to it. Write these down. Who you are, where you're from, what you do. The 4th and 5th is, how do you add value? And the 6th is, if you really add value, prove it to me. Quantify it. In 10 words or less. Why are those 2 the critical pieces? Because they are congruent with the purpose of life. And the purpose of life is very simple. The purpose of life is to love, to give, to serve, and to add value to somebody or something. There's no other reason for you to be sucking up this air. This is why you are here. To love, to give, to serve, and to add value to somebody or something. So include that in your introduction. How do you add value? And then prove it to me. You got 15 to 17 seconds. 60 to 75 words. So let me give you my personal introduction. I adjust it every now and then, depending on where I am. This is so I have maybe 3 or 4 versions of this, but in essence, this is what it is. Hi, I'm George Fraser from Cleveland, Ohio, by way of Brooklyn, New York. I'm the CEO and founder of FraserNet. I write books and speak on networking and economic development and building effective relationships. I help people turn acquaintances into friends and contacts into contracts. Over the last 30 years, I've helped over 5,000 people find just the right opportunity and over $500 million in new business. Good to meet you. That's it. Now, if that does not pique your interest, if you don't want to know more about me later, well, then I bless you and release you. If you don't ask for my card, I don't ask for your card. Okay? Unless, of course, you give me a compelling introduction where I may want to ask you for your card. So, have you thought about your introduction? Think about it tonight. People ask me, Dr. Fraser, how long has it taken you to write that introduction? It's taken me 30 years to write that introduction. So it's going to take you some time. The key elements, how do you add value? And then quantify it. Put it in terms that say to a person, this is what's in it for you. WIIFM, that's the only radio station anybody's ever listening to, right? What's in it for me? Why is it important to know you? What's in it for me? Now, they're not saying that to you. That's what they're thinking. So tell them what's in it for them. But do it in an elegant and with humility kind of way. That is part of making a poor first impression. The second part of making a poor first impression, this is going to sound a little weird, your body language and your facial expressions. Now, most people do not know how they really look when they're totally relaxed and are unaware that someone is looking at you. Some of us have an organic scowl. We don't know this. Our face has 10,000 muscles. They twitch and move, and you can adjust, and you can get literally almost 100 different facial expressions. But there's one facial expression you have that is natural to you. And so if you want to find out what you look like, really look like when you're not on guard, get up in the morning, go into your bathroom, look in the mirror, and see what you look like in the morning. All right? So let me show you what I look like in the morning before I put on my uniform and go out and play. All right? So here is my natural face. This is my natural face in its most rested in organic position. Hi. Want a network? So now I know that about me. Right? I've looked at my face and I went, ooh. And so I have practiced moving the muscles of my face when I'm out in public. And I've done it and practiced it so often that it's natural now. Okay? So you need to see what you look like. Because if you have an organic scowl or not an unpleasant look, you are fending off people. You have a closed body, a closed facial expression. You don't look easy to approach. And people are scared to approach you. All right? So that's part of a bad first impression. The third element of a bad first impression is no business cards. This is really unique to black people. I don't know why people come to business events and they're business people, but they have no business card. What's up with that? I have gotten people's information written on everything you could possibly imagine, including toilet paper. And so when I get people's information on toilet paper, I do with that information the same thing we do with toilet paper. Make a good first impression. That is the sixth thing, a good first impression. The fifth thing, and we're going to have to end it there, and we'll pick it back up at the Power Networking Conference because we'll have more time, is most of us don't spend enough time cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships. Now, how do I know this? I know this through a scientific study that we commissioned the Gallup organization to do for black people in America. We took a national survey on networking skills as compared to whites in America. We commissioned the Gallup organization to do this study, Kelvin. Now, we could have done the study ourselves. Our company was certainly capable of doing the study ourselves. But we knew, because we've been black a long time, that you would believe white people before you would believe us. So we had some white people do it. And I know you're going to believe these statistics because white people did them. But they didn't unfold or unveil anything that we didn't already know. Right? We don't spend enough time cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships at work, at home, and in the community. We spend about 60% of the time that white folks spend cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships. Therefore, the average black person has in their inventory about 55 to 60 relationships that they've cultivated and nurtured and can depend upon for various elements and things in their life. White people have between 130 and 140 people in their inventory of relationships that cover the breadth and depth of the needs that a particular person might need as they travel through life. So we don't spend enough time networking. We don't cultivate the 3 critical networks, probably because we don't even know what they are. No one's ever really taught us this or told us this. Not all relationships are equal. We have 3 networks that we must be working on through every passage of our life. And we get about 8 passages. Each passage is about 10 years. Let me say that differently. You're a different person at 10 than you were at 1. You're a different person at 20 than you were at 10. Let us pray. You're a different person at 30 than you were at 20. You're a different person at 40 than you were at 30. You're a different person at 50 than you were at 40. You're a different person at 60 than you were at 50. And I promise you, you will be a different person at 70 than you were at 60. You're evolving and you're growing. So we must cultivate these relationships, these 3 buckets of relationships, silos of relationships, throughout every facet of our life. One is our personal network. This is our close circle of friends. These are our family members and extended family members. These are the people that cheer you on, lift you up, and hug you. Let's call this your network at home. If things are not right at home, they're going to infect every other part of your life. I promise you that. How do I know that? I've been married to the same sister for 42 years. That gives me a PhD in relationships. The second silo of relationships is what is called an operational network. These are the people that help you to get specific tasks done in life. Whether you are on the board of the NAACP, or whether it's, where you're employed, or where you have your own business, some volunteer organization or initiative. These are people that platoon in and out of your life through every phase and passage of your life, help you do that thing that you are doing at that time. And you're helping he or she do that thing that they're doing at that time. And they may not and probably will not be doing the same things 20 years from now as they're doing now. But you're here at this moment to serve them and to help them. You're sort of, God has put you in their life. So that's your operational network. It's different than your personal network. Serves a different role. The final network is your strategic network. These are the people that are smarter than you. These are the people that are where you want to be. These are the people that will drag you into the 21st century kicking, screaming, and crying. These are the people that can be your mentors, elders, coaches. Smart networkers understand that networking looks like this. Someone is pulling you, and you must always be pulling someone. And the minute you break that connection in either direction, you have a hole in your net. And you know what happens when a fisherman gets a hold of his net? The fish get through too many holes, and the whole infrastructure of support breaks down. Those are the 3 networks that you have to work on by spending somewhere between 12 to 15 hours a week. There's a Harvard study that say successful people spend about 16 to 17% of their time working on cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships. Effective people, but very successful people, people who are at the top rungs of every ladder in America, spend 54% of their time working on cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships. I spend more than 60% of my time working on cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships at work, at home, and in the community. So this networking thing is not some little trite thing, strategy, tactic. Networking is a way in which we live. We will succeed when we're able to manage our relationships, effectively utilize our emotional intelligence, and understand that your EQ will ultimately be more important than your IQ. Your emotional intelligence is one's ability to manage the 5 most important emotions that we have and use the management of those emotions in the cultivating, nurturing, and the building of relationships with other people. When someone does something stupid around you and you do not have full control over your emotional intelligence, you'll simply scream, "Asshole!" You can do that. You won't keep them very long. Or you can simply say, there might have been a better way that we could have said that, or done that, or worked together on that. Let's think about it. Let's talk about it. That is the management of your emotions. Most of us do not have control of our emotions. We will say anything, do anything, and respond in any old way. And you just turn people off. Okay? So, I'm going to close this little part with saying this to you. I want you to write this down. Know that we did not have time to get through the whole lecture because we just physically don't have enough time. So I want you to write this down. I want you to think about yourself as a brand. And if you are thinking about yourself as a brand, I want you to know that your smile is your logo. Your personality, your EQ, interpersonal skills is your business card. And how you leave other people feeling after having an experience with you becomes your trademark. People will forget what you said and people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. So, I just want you to say the following thing. I want you to say, this is not about me. Say that. This is not about me. It's about we. It's about we. It takes teamwork. It takes teamwork to make the dream work. To make the dream work. We have the timber. We have the timber. Let us build. Let us build. God bless you and thank you so much. All right.